All right, guys, welcome to Libby's Lounge Author Edition, where the books are good. No, the books are great. The authors are even better. We have, is it Cara or Cara? I should have asked that.
Cara.
Cara. We have Cara Blaine with us today, which I am so excited about. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm getting over a cold right now. December's hard. December's not my favorite, but I'm surviving. How are you?
December is very hard. Not as cold because it's not that cold in Okie. It's cold to me, but in relative to like the East Coast, it's not that cold. Um, but I'm doing well. What project are you working on right now?
I am working on a new duology that I will release next year. Um, the first book is called Token of a Wolf. I'm going to launch it via Kickstarter in February. And that book is actually written and done, but I'm still just working on, like, I'm waiting for the proofs to come, all that kind of thing. I'm still working on the launching Kickstarter part of it. And then I'm working on drafting the second book, which is called Promise of a Bruja. And I mean, I say I'm working on it. I haven't been writing a lot lately, honestly. But in theory, that's my current work in progress. So,
I feel like
yeah.
December's a hard month to write. I don't know
It
why.
it started right after the election for me, honestly.
That's
And
fair.
then it was just, kids and sickness and whatever. And I've probably only written like 5 or 6 thousand words in the past month, but it'll get there when it gets there. The nice thing about being indie is that I set my own schedule, and like I'd like to have it done by a certain time, but if I don't, oh well.
Yeah. So you do Kickstarter. Tell me about that because
So I've done two Kickstarters, and the purpose was because I wanted audiobooks. I actually had a couple of audiobooks already via ACX doing Royalty Share Plus, but I wanted to be able to do like dual or duet narration, which is much trickier, right? Doing
and
it
more
through
expensive.
ACX Royalty Share Plus. They don't have a system for that set up. So I did my first one in February, March of this year in the spring, um, and got the audiobook for Luxe in Between funded, which is my first book in my trilogy that I rapid released this year. And then I did a second one in over the summer, and I did special editions of Curse of the Soul Collector, which is like a new adult fantasy romance that I wrote. But I used that profit to do book 2 of Lux's Lullaby trilogy. And that's just kind of how I'm funding those big projects, because I don't have, the $3,000 or whatever to pay out of pocket. But I'm discovering Kickstarter is also a really good way to get your books in front of new readers. Like way more new readers in a short amount of time than I could on social media. So that's kind of an extra perk.
Yeah, I've looked into Kickstarter, and it seems very overwhelming, but I'm excited to try it at some point. I don't know when I will, but
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, you can go on there and just type up a quick couple of paragraphs and throw a picture, but you're probably not going to do very well doing that. Like, it's a sales platform, right? So
yeah.
you have to be able to write good copy and make or buy or whatever good graphics, and put a lot of time and effort into it, before, during, and after, right? Because
Yeah.
then you have fulfillment on the back end. So I've done really well with it, fortunately, but it is a lot of work. And whenever authors come to me like, how much time would this take? I tell them honestly, like, a lot. It takes a
Like a
lot of
full-time job.
time,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, but a lot of authors do really well. And like I said, it's a good way to get your stuff in front of new readers. It's a good way to like be able to afford to do like special editions if that's something you want to do, or to be able to fund things like audiobooks. So
Yes. The audiobooks, I love audiobooks and they're so expensive. I work just to fund my audiobooks. Like that's one of the reasons
yeah.
I've picked up extra hours is to fund my writing career, which is just a hobby. It feels like sometimes because I'm not
Yeah.
being paid enough. Um, so I looked at the Kickstarter. I did. I snooped yesterday, and it's a retelling, isn't it? Like kind of literary
It's
Riding Hood
more,
and the Wolf
I'd call it more inspired by Little Red Riding Hood,
inspired.
not so much a retelling. Um, when I started writing, I thought it might be a retelling, but I'm not a plotter, so I don't really know when I start writing what it's going to end up
Same.
being. Um,
Same. I plotted one time,
so
and
it was definitely
my characters
inspired by.
like halfway through were like, no, and I
Yeah,
it
no.
was terrible.
I
It
tried
was
plotting
terrible.
out, like, I did detailed outlines for my first 2 or 3 books. And every single time past like chapter 2, it just went way off. And then I'm like updating the outline to like be what the book is. And I'm like, what is the point of why am I spending so much time on these outlines? Because I can't follow them. Um, I can't. I tried 3 times.
They're guidelines. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I do a really loose, like major plot point kind of thing now, but I do
Hmm.
not try to do chapter by chapter or anything like that. And even those plot points might change, but it just gives me a general way to get started, I guess.
So do you write full time, or do you have another job, or do you have like activities that you like to indulge in?
I wish I wrote full time. I my everything my career, my employment rather, has kind of been on hiatus a little bit. I don't know. I have 2 kids, and one of them I homeschooled for a long time, and then during COVID for like 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, I ran a little micro school, like learning pod in my house, which was I got paid for that. Um, but he decided he wanted to try public school this last semester. So that was my job, and I wasn't going to keep doing it if he wasn't gonna, like, I was really doing it for him, right? I wasn't going to keep doing it if he wasn't going to be there. And but I didn't have anything else lined up. He decided like towards the end of the summer that this is what he wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I don't have a job now, this is fine. um, to be fair, I could have kept doing it, but honestly, having 8 to 10 kids in your house 4 to 5 days a week is a lot. And after doing it for 4 years, like the only reason I would have continued is for him at that point. I was kind of over that part of it. So I signed up to be a substitute teacher for our local school district. So I've just been subbing here and there. You're a sub, right? Or you were?
I was a sub until last week. I loved subbing. Like, what grade level do you do?
I can do any grade level. So far, I've only done high school just because I have a middle schooler and a high schooler, and with our like local school schedules, that's just what works the easiest for me to be able to like get my kids up in the morning and get them to school and then
I
whatever. So
loved high school. Like, I love the kids. They were phenomenal. Um, but they were so self-sufficient that I actually got reading and writing done while I was subbing. They're
yeah,
like, we have a Google Classroom assignment. And I'm like, cool, me too.
yeah. No, I've done the same thing. I've brought my laptop, and usually it's like they have stuff set up on the Chromebooks that their teacher has already assigned or whatever, and they just sit there and do their thing, or they don't, but I can't make them, right?
Yeah.
And as
Like,
long as they're not being disruptive, um,
it's,
I can sit
I feel
there and
like
get a little bit of writing or editing done.
depending on the school district and like the school, I feel like being a substitute teacher as a writer is an awesome like supplement income.
Yeah.
Because I do have a friend who they're like, no, our school district's really strict, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It hasn't been a great supplement because I am only doing it with the one school district with my kids right now. And that's partly because it just works with their vacation schedule and everything. Um, but they hire a lot of subs. And like we have this app that will pop up with jobs. And if you don't like click on it, like the second it pops up and accept it, it's gone in like 30 seconds. So
That is
I have it. Yeah,
so smart.
it is really smart, but it's also like there's a lot of competition for, for these sub jobs, especially for the high school ones. I feel like I get a lot of elementary ones that don't fly right off the app right away, but
Hmm.
I just can't do it with
That's
our schedule because elementary school starts earliest here. before the high school and middle school, so it just doesn't work as well for
That
us.
gives me such a good idea. I took over the secretary position, so I got like a promotion, and I'm in charge of the subs now. Um,
Hmm.
and we have at 6:30 in the morning. I have to go in and start calling people. Like, can you come in? Can
Oh,
you come in?
really? The
Like
app is
that.
called Red Rover, and like all the districts in our area use it.
That's that might make my job. Like, I'm going to go in there and be like, listen, people, this is how we're doing it from now on. Um,
Yeah, it literally just does a push notification, and I can go in and accept or decline. Um, and then it keeps my schedule in there, so it keeps track of like the ones I've, signed up for or whatever, and reminds me of them and all that kind of thing. It's very organized. It's really, really handy.
okay, you may have just made my job. I
I
don't know
hope
if they'll
so.
approve it, but I could do like a Google form first thing in the morning and send that bad boy out, and the first person to get it gets the job. I could figure
Yeah.
something out.
Yep.
Amazing. So, what inspires you to write? Because we all get inspired by something. Because you write fantasy?
Hmm. Fantasy and romantic fantasy. My first few books were YA fantasy. They all had like romantic subplots, but they were fantasy books. My adult books are all romantic fantasy. So, what
Are
inspires
they
me to write? I don't.
spicy?
I've been writing since I was like in second grade. What was that?
I said, are they spicy?
A little bit. They're all slow burn.
Okay.
So I say they're spicy. To me, they're spicy, but given what a
I
lot of
like
people
slow
like to
burn.
read,
Yeah, no.
they're not fast burn. They're not chock full of those kinds of scenes. So, like with the Lux trilogy, it's just super slow burn. And so book 3 actually has a good amount of spicy scenes, but that's just kind of like, for me, that's what worked with the story, and that's the point they were at. And book 1 and 2 just doesn't have as much because it's slow burning. Um,
Yeah.
it feels more realistic to me, and I know we're not reading fantasy for realism, but like, um, I don't know, I would have a hard time reading or writing characters, and I guess because like with fantasy there's all this adventure and action too, right? And
Yeah.
so I feel like they don't have a lot of time to get to that other side of things, right? Like
Yeah.
they're busy. They're running for their lives, they're fighting people. Like it's not convenient to just hop into bed and get busy all the time. So I think that's part of why I like writing slow burn. It just works
I'm
better for the
excited because I
story
thought they were
usually.
more spicy for some reason. And I don't know if that's just because most of the romance authors I find on TikTok, not intentionally, are like, it's spicy. Um, but I don't always want that. So now your books just popped up high on my list.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, book 3 of Lux is spicy. Like it's open door and it's spicy, but like by book 3, I feel like you're ready
It
for
makes
it for the
sense.
most part. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does to me. Like I did get one review on book 3 that was like, well, the first 2 were promising, but now it's just smut. And I was like, there was a lot of plot in that book, honey, but okay. Um, I think most people enjoyed enjoyed that journey with the main characters, and it's definitely just I'll read some fast burn stuff and enjoy it, but it's just not. I don't know. I don't. That's not what I write. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how to write it. So
I get that. Yeah, I don't write it. I don't write it.
yeah.
I like to read it occasionally.
But you asked about inspiration, and it can just be
Yes.
anything. To get back to that, I just remembered. I've been writing since I was in like second grade, and it was mostly poetry and short stories for a very long time. And I studied creative writing in college alongside psychology. Won some awards for my poetry. Never thought I would write novels, honestly. Um, and then maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I sat down and I was like, I think I want to try to write a YA fantasy novel. And I sat down and I started writing, and I wrote a few pages, not that much. And I was like, I'm gonna do some research here. I Googled like how many words are in a novel, and I was like, oh my God, that's so many words. I can't write that many words. Like, I'm a poet. This is not going to work. I can't do this. And I set it aside and never went back to it. But then in 2022, I just got random inspiration. It was like, it was a title of a TV show that I didn't end up ever watching the TV show, but the title gave me this idea. And then I sat down and I drafted a YA fantasy novel in like a month.
That's amazing.
So it was just time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, the inspirations are pretty random and I have a whole like long list in a Google Doc of like all these story ideas from random inspirations that I get.
I love that. I love that so much. Like the most random things will inspire like lines or anything.
Hmm.
It's amazing. So you've been writing since second grade.
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I didn't like major in English or anything like that because I was scared, right? Like I didn't want to be like a starving artist. So I did the creative writing, but I also did psychology. I went into social work after college. But that's what I've always wanted to be, was a writer. That's what I've always been, right? But I wanted to be a published author and like make a living
Yeah.
at it, which I don't make a living at it yet, but I'm working my
We're on
way.
the way.
Yeah. Um, I'm definitely not the type of author that's hoping that I get one book or series that just goes absolutely crazy. Um, I don't want to be SGM. I don't want to be famous. It sounds horrible to me, honestly. No interest in fame. I just want to be like that mid-list indie author making a living, which just really requires a back catalog. And I'm
Yeah.
building that, right? Like I have 7 books out right now, and the more I can build that back catalog, the closer I'll get, hopefully, to making a
That's
living with it.
yes. Um I don't think I don't know what I want to do with it. Sometimes I'm like I want to be super famous and then sometimes I'm like, I don't want all that drama. That looks like a lot of work and a lot of stress.
Yeah, it looks super stressful to me. Again, like I'm a super shy, introverted person, and I just wouldn't. I don't want that much attention. I don't want. I don't ever want to be like on actual television. Like I don't. Um, I don't want reporters calling me for interviews. Like I don't. No, I just don't. I don't want to talk to all those strangers. Okay,
That's
so
fair. But
yeah,
you do a lot on TikTok, don't you?
I do because. Um, like we talked about earlier, in order to sell your books, you kind of have to sell yourself, right? I didn't want to get onto TikTok, because I don't like recording myself at all. But my son, my 15-year-old, was like, "Mom, this is what you have to do if you want to sell your books. You have to get on TikTok. This is the thing." He literally took my phone and downloaded the app and made me an account. And I was like, "Okay, I'll try," you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that particular app ended up being the one I've had the most success with, honestly. I've done way better there than with Instagram. So I'm sad it's going away, but I'm glad that he made me do it because in the year and a half I've been there, I've met a lot of amazing um, authors, writers, and I love that community. And I've also gained a ton of really cool readers. So
I know. I'm sad about TikTok right now. I don't want
I
to have
am
it.
too. It's very
Like,
sad.
I don't know where I'm going to go. I mean, there's a chance it won't go anywhere. I think it's sad, but it's also good. It was like a reality check. Like, you should be diversifying.
Hmm.
Anyways,
I've had an Instagram I had Instagram, an author account on Instagram for probably 6 or 8 months before I had TikTok. I just never really gained a lot of traction there.
I,
I don't know why, but I just didn't have a
I
lot
don't
of luck with it.
enjoy
So
Instagram as much as I enjoy TikTok.
yeah, same, same. Sadly, I'm liking Threads. Threads is okay.
Is
Um,
it?
I like it. I don't know. Everyone has their own opinions, right? They're like, oh, it's just like Twitter, and I hated Twitter. I didn't like Twitter either, and I was never on it. But I like Threads. Blue Sky reminds me more of Twitter, and I know people that just adore that, and I'm not digging it as much over there yet. But I only started that account like a couple weeks ago, so we'll see. Um, yeah, I'm sad. I'm sad that TikTok is going because that's definitely the one that I've found the
I,
most community.
I've made so many good friends on that app that I feel like I could never make on any other app. I think it's
Yeah.
the lives. It's the lives. I think, and that's why I think I'm gravitating towards YouTube um, a little bit more, just because I like the video platform. But I like being able to jump on people's lives at like 2 o'clock in the morning, my time,
Hmm.
whatever time it is in their time zone. I think that we had a live that was like all the time zones at one point. It was amazing.
That's funny.
Where are
Can you
you?
do
Oh,
that? I
I'm in
don't even
Japan. Where
know.
are you?
I didn't even know
Yeah.
you could do that on YouTube. I've never really
I
done
don't think
anything
you
with
can, I don't
YouTube.
know that you can. I don't know.
Aw. Yeah, the lives are fun. And I do, one of my best writer friends and I, she lives local to me. We do Writers and Wine twice a
I
month.
know. I love watching those when I can catch them.
I appreciate it. We just have so much fun with it. And I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to try Instagram, but not going to be the same. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I should try. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not Instagram fun. Yeah. Um, so if you could tell somebody who's meeting you for the first time what your favorite thing in the world is, what would it be?
Books. I know. So that's one thing I've had a hard time with like TikTok is you need to have something else other than your books, right? Or books in general. Like ideally you're offering something else. And I'm like, I like to read and write. Like I'm so boring. Those are the things that I like to do the most. Um, outside of that, like I have lots of random hobbies, but I
Like
don't
what?
I don't have time for all of them when I'm writing,
Mm,
so I haven't done any of these for a while. But I draw and I paint. I do still draw on my iPad, but I haven't like actually gotten out my painting stuff and painted anything in a very long time. I like playing guitar and ukulele. So
that's cool.
artsy stuff. I'm not especially amazing at any of it, but it's fun. But I can't maintain all of the hobbies at once. It seems like it just for one I kind of hyper focus, but for two there's like just not enough hours in the day because kids and everything else.
Yeah,
So
we need like I wish we had like a hobby day.
right.
There's a like this is hobby day and everyone does their hobby on hobby day. That would be the coolest thing ever.
I still have too many hobbies for that, I feel like, but it would be nice still.
It
I
would be
agree.
helpful.
Yeah.
Um, what is the strangest job you've ever had?
Hmm. Think about that.
Mm,
Strangest. I don't know. I don't know that I've had any strange. I mean, as far as like experiences during the job, probably social
yeah.
work. It doesn't
Okay.
sound like a strange job, but there are some strange situations you end up being in. um, yeah, I can't really. I don't know. I've had boring jobs. I've worked at an ice cream store. I worked at Barnes and Noble, um, and I was a nanny, and I worked in like foster group homes and things like that in college. Um, but probably my actual social work job is what put me in the strangest situations,
Hmm.
um, depending. Yeah.
I every time I hear ice cream shop, have you watched Stranger Things?
Yes.
Okay, every time I hear ice cream shop, now I just think about them in the ice cream shop, and
Right.
it's the most interesting job you can ever have now. And I want to work in an ice cream shop so I can go fight some Russians.
I worked at a Cold Stone, and I was only like 16, I think, when I worked there. It was a job. I got free ice cream, and ice cream is like my favorite dessert in the world. So,
I love Cold Stone. I used to go all the time just because I liked watching them mix. Was it a hard was that hard to learn how to do?
nah, it's super easy. The hardest part of that job is the same as any other. customer service job, right? It's the occasional
People.
cranky customer. But you didn't even, I mean, in an ice cream shop, you don't even get that many of those, honestly. Like, people are usually in a pretty good mood when they go to get ice cream, right? So there wasn't even too much of that. Like, I only remember one or two, like, super cranky customers the whole time I worked there. So, it was a pretty easy job. And I worked there with a friend of mine too. So that was fun.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I keep thinking about, because you said you were homeschooling, I just keep thinking about how hard homeschooling is. Like I keep circling back to that, and I don't know why.
Have you homeschooled before?
No,
Okay.
I don't think I can homeschool my kids.
A lot of people say that. I think you can do whatever your kids need you to do at the time. You figure it out.
Mm, yeah,
That's what I
that's
think.
what I've been told. It's
Yeah, you just figure it out. My oldest started kindergarten at a regular traditional school, um, and it was just miserable. The poor kid was miserable. Like, kindergarten should be fun, but he has sensory issues. Like, really, I think he's on the spectrum, but it wasn't ever severe enough for it to be diagnosed at that point. Like, they diagnosed him with sensory issues and like sent him to OT, and it didn't do anything. Really, it didn't help him out at all. Um, so when it got to the point of like he was just refusing to go, and I emailed like the teacher and was like, I don't know really what to do. Like, I don't help, like and what they told me was, because that school had like a uniform of sorts, like a polo shirt and a certain color shorts or whatever. They said, make him go to bed in his school clothes. So he's already dressed in the morning, and then physically put him in the car. You're bigger than he is. And I was like, that's not what I'm going to do.
that.
That's not what I'm
Okay.
going to do. But he didn't have any diagnoses for something like, he had a IEP for speech, but outside of that, there were no diagnoses that forced anyone to give him any kind of accommodations. Um, Public schools in Arizona aren't the best. um, and I mean, in the United States compared to other places, right? Overall, not the best.
Yeah.
But I didn't like their solution, so I just pulled him out. Um, I homeschooled him until fourth grade, and then he wanted to try public school again. And as kids get bigger, they get better, like develop coping skills and stuff. So he felt ready to try. So he went and he did well. He did have some anxiety. Um, I feel like he probably had his first anxiety attacks during that time, but overall he did well. But that was the 2019-2020 school year. So he didn't finish out the year, right? Um, in March, everything closed. And so we did the micro school the next year as like a mini, just a solution for having my kids get an education with some social time, but it was minimized, only a handful of kids, and they were all wearing masks and everything. And it just felt like the best option at the time. He did that for 1 year, and then he went back to public school. But my youngest, I've always homeschooled up until this last semester, which was seventh grade for him. So, um, and for him, I was already doing it with his brother. So, like, why would I send him to school if I'm already at home homeschooling his brother, right? And then he
Yeah.
really enjoyed the micro school while we were doing it. But also, he's a competitive gymnast, and that is very time consuming. And I always kind of thought, like, I don't know how some of the kids on his team are homeschooled, and but a lot of them go to public school. And I was just always like, I don't know how these kids do it. Like, they go straight from school to gym, they still have homework, and that's part of why we just kept him homeschooled. Like, he does 12 hours of gym a week, and that's not counting like drive time back and forth. Um, so when he said he was ready, we talked about that, right? And I was like, it's going to be a lot. Like, he's going to have some long days of like 12-hour, school and then gym kind of days. And we told him you have to try for the full semester to like give it a full fair chance and give yourself time to make friends and all that kind of thing. But the semester's over and he wants to go back to homeschooling. He doesn't, and it is purely like he did well. He liked almost all of his teachers. He got good grades and everything, but he was stressed and exhausted, and he was getting sick a lot, probably partly because of being so stressed and exhausted, right? So he wants to be a gymnast forever. Like that's his thing. He's found his thing. He found it when he was
That's
3, and he's never wavered. And that's what he wants to do. Like he'd love to make it to the Olympics, but even if he doesn't, he wants to grow up and be a coach and own a gym. That's his
that's so
passion.
cool.
And so I'm not going to make him do public school if we have the option of homeschooling so
Yeah.
that he can continue doing, what he loves.
That's that's really cool.
He's a super easy kid to homeschool though. He just does his work. Like he uh, he doesn't he doesn't give me a lot of flack or anything. Part of the reason my oldest ended up staying in public school is because we were butting heads too much. We have a much better relationship now that he's in public school. Um, he still doesn't love school, but it's better for him to not love school there than here. you know?
Yeah, because now you
So
can be the
it
safe
really
spot
just
where he
depends on
can.
the kid. Like he needed it when he was younger. As he got older, it wasn't working out as much for us as a family. Um, I'm pretty happy to have a 15-year-old who likes me and wants to be in my company, even if he's not loving public school so much. you know, um, I don't know. It's when you have a kiddo that's just not interested in it, regardless of setting. What do you do? But he he has some things he likes about it, and like I said, I think the most important thing for us was that he and I have a much better relationship, and that's I can't overstate the importance of that when you have teenagers, right?
Yeah. My daughter is 13 and she loves hanging out with me. And so I'm like, okay, like
yeah.
I would not be able to homeschool her because we do butt heads really hard and it was
hmm
hard during COVID.
Yeah.
Um, but at the moment, she's still wants to hang out and talk with me. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go with it
Yep.
until you
Yeah.
decide you don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. You do what you need to do to make sure they still want to keep that relationship without like bending the boundaries and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. He definitely still gets mad at us, and he has his days of like, I can't wait till I move out of this house or whatever. That's just normal stuff. But overall, um, we just really enjoy each other's company, and that's
I love
feels like
that.
an important thing at this difficult stage of life.
Yeah. So you said you write when you do subbing. Um, when else do you write? Like where do you find the time to fit it in?
Um, really
Especially if you're
just
going back
one.
to homeschooling.
Yeah. Um, when I was running the micro school, I would sometimes write while the kids were doing their own work, and they can interrupt me if they need help or something. But we used online curriculum for some things, like for math, because I had all different grade levels. So teaching them directly like wasn't going to make as much sense when you have third grade through eighth grade or whatever. And so I can work while the kids are doing schoolwork. um, I have a hard time, like I feel like the most free time I have is probably in the mornings, but I'm not a morning person and I really struggle to write in the mornings. So my brain really wants to write in the afternoon and evenings, which is like the busiest time, right? With like dinner and kids and activities and whatever. So that's kind of hard. I do sometimes just sit there for 2 hours and like just pretend I'm not here, and I put noise canceling earbuds in and just uh, write for as long as I can. But it's tough. I don't have a space either with like a door to close. I don't have an office or anything, so I'm just out in the main part of the house. And I don't know. Whenever I can, like except in the mornings, I just write whenever I can. Um, Sometimes it's at night
I
after they go to bed, but the older they get, the later they go to bed. So that doesn't really happen either.
Yeah,
Just fit it in
I feel that.
wherever, whenever.
Stick the words in where you can.
Hmm. Yep. I do like to go and write at the library. If I have the option of like being away and no one needing me to be here for a couple hours at a time because it's quiet and no one talks to me at the library, right? But they're still wireless and it's comfortable and whatever. So
That's yeah. I don't have a favorite spot to write. Wherever I can get the words in.
yeah, I feel like as moms, that's what you have to do.
Yes,
You
and
just have
not
to
get
make it
mad when
work.
they interrupt you. That's the hardest part. They'll
Yeah.
be interrupting me. I'm like, stop talking to me. And then I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. I really want you to like me. Like, not like me in that way, but like, I don't want you to be mad at me for telling you to leave me alone when you're home for like 4 hours.
Hmm.
It's a hard
Yeah,
balance.
it is.
Hard balance.
It
Which
gets
is your
easier as
favorite
they
of
get
your
older.
7 book? What'd you say?
It gets easier as they get older. I feel like they need a little
Yeah,
bit less, but
that's good to
I
know.
don't have a favorite book. That's it. My favorite book is always the one I'm working on, right?
Really? Do you go back and reread your books?
I Yes and no. I listen to the audiobooks
Hmm.
sometimes. I don't typically like read them past editing and revising and everything because you read them like 50 times or however many times to get them ready to publish. So I don't usually go back and read them physically, but I have listened to the audiobooks. I think I don't know. I think it's partly because your craft gets better, right? The more and more and more that you write. So I always say that my favorite book is whatever current project I'm on because it's probably going to be the best written out of all of them. Like hopefully, right? I've made improvements and stuff. I like all of my books, but definitely the first couple of them, I'm just it's tempting to go back and like do an entire rewrite because I'm so much better at my craft now. 7, 8 books. Like I've technically written 8 novels and 2 novellas. Um,
Yeah.
so my favorite is always the current one. So right now it's the duology, The Token of a Wolf and Promise of a Bruja, and that'll change when I write the next one.
I'm so excited for that. I'm excited for that one. I I'm already on the Kickstarter waitlist thing.
Yeah, it'll let you know. It'll email you. Thank you for following that pre-launch page. Um,
Yeah.
I haven't
All
been
right.
I haven't been doing great with marketing that lately, but
It's okay.
what can you do?
We could do it here.
Yeah.
um, all right. One more question, kind of, that I like to ask. Um, what book, TV, or movie character are you most like? Like, if you could identify any character anywhere, who would you identify with?
Elizabeth from Pride and Prejudice.
I like that.
It's one of my favorite books.
I actually have not finished reading it. I started it many times and I never finished it.
Oh, really? I've read it tons of times. I think I probably first read it in high school. So in a way, it's one of those like comfort reads for me. Like, I don't know if picking it up for the first time today, if I would like it as much, but I loved it back then. And it just became an automatic like reread for me. Like I read it probably once a year now. Um, but it's like partly a comfort thing, right? Like, I don't know. Do you have comfort reads? I'm one of those weird people that rereads several different like series and books because they're just comforting.
I used to. I used to reread Harry Potter a ton. Um, but I'm a strange author where I actually will go back and reread my books just to reread my books. And so my books are my comfort read.
Aw, I kind of feel like that. I've listened to the audiobooks for Luxe book 1 and 2 like probably an embarrassing number of times. So even though I'm not reading it, like it is my kind of comfort thing now. Like if I don't know what I want to read or listen to or whatever, I just put on one of those because
You should. You should be super proud of it. Like, if
yeah,
you don't want to listen to it or read it again, why would anyone else?
it was kind of hard initially because when I don't know, I did listen to Lux in Between a bunch of times after it was first produced. Um, and after the first couple of listens, I started to notice things about the writing that I would like to fix. And it's like, well, it's
Mhm.
immortalized forever in the audiobook now, so I could go change the manuscript, but like this is what it is. So then the next time or two I listened to it, it was kind of hard because like my brain was really stuck on those things that I was like, that's a word I didn't realize I overused. And apparently my editor didn't either. And now I know. And now it's gonna bug me.
Yes, I have some of
Um,
those.
but I got to a point where I could just like accept that and be like, it's not perfect. That's okay. I still enjoy it, you know. And I love those stories. So yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. I'm so excited we got to chat. Um, what do you want the listeners to know? You have the Kickstarter coming up. They should definitely go subscribe to that. Do you subscribe to
Yes.
that or do you like follow that?
You follow. Yeah. You
Go
can follow
follow the
the pre-launch
Kickstarter.
page.
It
Yeah.
looks
And
so
then
pretty, the book, like the
thank
cover.
you. I designed my own cover, so I appreciate that.
It is gorgeous.
Thank
Like,
you.
so
Yeah,
I want it on my shelf.
if you follow the pre-launch page, Kickstarter will just send you an email when it launches, and then you get the benefit of like early bird bonuses. There's some special things you can only get in the first like 24 to 48 hours, things like that. So um, you can search Tokenable Wolf on Kickstarter, where I have the link on my website and every other place that links go. So yeah.
Yes, go follow it. Um, and then where can everyone find you online?
On TikTok and Blue Sky, I'm at Cara Blaine. Not that TikTok will probably be a thing for much longer, but and on all the meta on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, I'm at carablaine.author. And those are all the ones that I have right now. I haven't downloaded Lemonade. I haven't made a YouTube account. I might in the future. Um, I do also have a newsletter though, so people can keep up with me that way. And you can subscribe to it at cblaine.com. I only send it out monthly. I don't like spam people. And I do monthly giveaways that are only for newsletter subscribers. So that's kind of fun. And then if I do join Lemonade or a YouTube channel or something like that, then, you know, my subscribers will be the first to know.
Perfect. Go subscribe to the newsletter. That's how you can always find an author, especially when platforms decide to do crazy things like close
Mm-hmm.
accounts for no reasons and
Yeah,
block us out of our
exactly.
accounts.
Yep.
So
That's why I
newsletters are
have
the
it.
best way to find us. Um, thank you so
Yep.
much for joining me. I'm so excited to
Thank
have you.
you.
Um, and that's it. You guys
Yeah.
have a wonderful day. We'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good. Thank you, Libby.